much for checking out the Sportsline Podcast here on CHCH. I'm Bubba O'Neill. Well, as we love to do, we love to celebrate successful teams, athletes, executives, and even broadcasters who are Canadian. By the way, it's Wednesday, July 3rd, where 23 years ago, the city of Vancouver lost the Grizzlies to Memphis, Tennessee. Now, with that said, today's guest is someone whose small beginnings began in BC. The year 2008, the place was Nelson Stadium in Burlington, and yours truly is part of the broadcast crew for the Canadian Junior Football League Final. Well, this talented football player took the first play from scrimmage 55 yards for a touchdown and later put his name in the record books with 410 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. It's the Vancouver Island Raiders taking down the Burlington Braves 35-8. Many moons later, Andrew Harris joins us to talk about football, life, and his new documentary, Running Back Relentless. 3-3, great to see you from way back in those days.
Yeah, man, that feels like a lifetime ago. But it's wild how fast football career goes. You know how time flies when you're having fun, they say. And 2008 is that year is one I'll never forget. The national championship. I actually lost one of my best friends in September that year. And I used to wear number 20, and I switched my number to 33, and just went on an absolute tear for those last few games of the season and then the playoffs. So it was definitely heavily inspired, and like I said, memories I'll never forget. Playing back in junior.
Your career to getting to the Canadian Football League is somewhat unconventional compared to a lot of other players. You kind of came in with the sort of, Wally Buono seeing this guy outstanding, putting up these kinds of numbers in a team that was fairly local. And you end up getting signed by the Lions. But I'll ask you this question because you can understand this more than anyone else. Why is it so difficult, especially on offense for quarterbacks, running backs, even wide receivers? When you're Canadian, it's tough to even get into a lineup in the Canadian Football League. Why is it so difficult?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot more receivers, and obviously O-line. O-line's the big one for Canadians, but, in a specialized position like running back or quarterback, when there's only one guy on the field in that position, it tends to be dominated by an American or someone with the U.S. passport. I mean, it's just the talent pool they have in the States. You get a guy that played Div 1, and at a big school, and he's used to the pressure, he's used to the big stage, and it's definitely a hard egg to crack as far as getting an opportunity to even be seen. And that was just exactly what I faced in 2008. I mean, the reason why I actually switched in 2008, I was playing receiver for majority of the season with the Raiders because the Lions didn't look at me as a running back. They looked at me as a receiver. And so I was playing the inside slot position, kind of what, the Jason Claremont at the time that, when I first came into camp, I was backing up him, third or fourth in the depth chart, wearing the stankiest number 74 at receiver. But it's wild how and I tell guys this all the time. I'm like, when you get an opportunity, just be undeniable in every phase of the game. And for me, I wasn't the best pass pro protector, protecting the quarterback, and a little bit undersized, when I was 19 years old or 20 years old, and figured out, I needed to work out a little more and get a little stronger and try to figure out how to block better. And, playing in the receiver position, helped me hone my skills in that realm because, I was learning how to, run routes properly, catch the ball in different situations, and really just, polishing my game as a receiver. Running the football is something I was always able to do. But playing professionally, there's a lot of guys that can run the ball, but it's how are they three-dimensional? And then I took that fourth dimension, which was the knowledge of the game, to the next level. So, when I showed up, the following year, and, I was a better pass protector, I was polished route runner, and I knew the playbook, from all the positions on the field, it really helped me separate myself from everyone else, and regardless of what my passport was, being a Canadian. So, it's tough, and it's an uphill battle, but one I was able to kind of conquer, through, just being resilient and stubborn. And, they actually put me at safety in 2009 for a majority of the season, and so I'm learning how to backpedal for the first time, and I've never been a guy to really want to run backwards, but again, the more you can do, the more you learn, and the more polished you become as a football player, and that's exactly what I did.
Well, I'm glad you kind of detailed those days in BC, because really, you kind of had two hometowns in a way. Is that fair to say? Kind of BC was one of your homes, Winnipeg was another one of your homes, and you had tremendous success with the Lions, and the fact that, you had played, you had gotten to be a starter. You're playing running back now. You played at Empire Field, the opening of BC Place, or reopening of BC Place, and playing in front of big crowds, and being successful and becoming a name in the Canadian Football League. But you make this free agent move to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and for someone on the outside like myself, that's to me when Andrew Harris became the big name. Andrew Harris, one of the best backs in the Canadian Football League. Why did you make that move to Winnipeg?
Yeah, a lot of people thought, in 2015, I had a really good breakout year. In 2011, we win the Grey Cup, and then 2012, I almost did 1,000 rushing and receiving. I had some NFL interest, that following, or that off season, and back then you weren't really able to, go work out with anyone unless you got released outright. So, Wally wouldn't let me go to be released, and then the following season, it kind of, it worked out the way it did. And then 14, I got hurt. And then like about a third into the season, or halfway through the season, and a big ankle injury. And then 2015, we have a new coaching staff, and I was a little bit overweight because, my ankle injury was kind of wearing on me, and, have a bit of an off year in 2015. And at that point, I think I was like 28 or something like that. So, at that point, a lot of backs kind of slow down, and especially after a big ankle injury. And, Wally gave me a good contract offer, but, ultimately, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers were really interested in me and wanted me to come, and they offered me a really amazing contract, and, an opportunity to go play in front of my hometown. Was a dream come true, and something I was really excited about. I knew there's going to be lots of pressure with that. I knew there was going to be lots of distractions with that, it kind of wound up being, it wasn't just playing football anymore. I took it more personal, to try to put the city on my back, so to speak, and bring this championship pedigree, this winning attitude, and the whole goal, when I first came there was to bring the city a Grey Cup, and it took a couple of years to get there, but I was able to accomplish that, and amazing, like I said, dream come true to be able to envision something, dream it, and then live it out and fulfill it.
Well, and that's the thing that people don't realize. They look at your accomplishments, and then they think to themselves, well, you know what? When you made that move to Winnipeg, the Bombers were not any good. They hadn't won a Grey Cup in so long. And you were kind of maybe the most important free agent signing for the Bombers to set them up for where they would end up. Zach Collaros comes along, and we as Hamiltonians know oh too well about what you were up to. The back end of those years in Winnipeg, and I know you were just celebrated in Winnipeg at Princess Auto Field, or whatever they're calling it. I still call it IG Field. But being in a place like Winnipeg, where it's so important, right? I guess Saskatchewan's kind of the same. Hamilton's the same. The football team is the thing. And to be celebrated by a franchise like that certainly must have meant a lot to you.
Yeah, it was awesome. I had all my family there, and, again, going through, minor football, going to Canadians, the old stadium in Winnipeg, just understanding how big of an impact the Bombers are on that community, and on that fan base, and then being a key component, a leader in the community, a leader on the team, and as impactful as I was on the field. It was awesome to, just get re-embraced back into that community, to that fan base, because honestly, like, the split between me and Winnipeg when I came to Toronto was pretty ugly, and I felt really, really disrespected at the time, and a lot of players on the team, people in the executives and the staff were pissed off of how it was handled, and it was one of those things where I was like, this is a business, gotta swallow your pride, and after taking a couple steps back and kind of reanalyzing, everything that was going on in my life and where the team was trending, it was one of those things where it just felt, like the right thing to do to sign the one-day contract, retire as a Bomber, and then to be, like I said, all the nasty things you hear on social media, and people have their own opinions and stuff, and it definitely hurts a little bit, because you put so much work into being a certain type of player and holding a certain type of standard, and when that's diminished or degraded, for whatever reason, it's a tough pill to swallow. And for me, getting back into that fan base, being honored at the stadium, watching a game, from a spectator, not on the field, up in the stands or up in the booth, and it was awesome. I mean, they do it the right way there, and there's a lot of great memories in that building, and it was a great moment for myself and my family, just to kind of enjoy it from a spectator's point of view.
Got to backpedal there for a little bit. Even as a Ticats guy, we got to talk about those Argo years. But those were difficult years for you, even though you won. I mean, you're kind of getting to the end of your career. I see you fighting through some injuries. I remember the pec injury. It kind of came out of nowhere. I think it might have been like your first or second carry of the game, and the next thing you know, you're kind of coming off the field. Talk to me about those years, and again, getting into that advancement. And as a running back, let's not forget that you're in a position where you're getting contact every single game. What was that like at the end?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. I knew when I came to Toronto that it was going to be, they were signing me more for, what I was going to bring to the team, off the field. They still felt that I was able to contribute at a high level on the field, and I was contributing for that first bit of the season, and then actually I think I got hurt in Hamilton actually, at the Ticats game there. I think it was in August, and I get the results back, and I have the torn pec, and I kind of just look, I'm like, damn, like I'm done, like this is, for me to come back from this injury, it was a 6-month recovery time from what the doctors are saying, and I just kind of challenged myself to, I've always been a pretty quick healer, and been able to push myself to get back, every time, past the deadlines that I've been given, and I just found the courage and the will to want to do this one more time, and the big motivator was, I saw the way Winnipeg was playing, I saw the way our team was playing, I saw the way our team was coming together, and I just really wanted to give it everything I could to push myself to get back on the field and be an impact, in the playoffs and in the Grey Cup. And I had my son Axton 2-3 days before the East Final against Montreal, and then so that's a whirlwind, and then we find myself in the Grey Cup against my old team, and it was just a lot of emotions, a lot of excitement, a lot going on in my life, and to be able to shave off basically 3.5 months off an injury and be serviceable and strong enough to play in a football game was absolutely amazing, and obviously to beat the Bombers in the Grey Cup was just icing on the cake.
Little extra gravy. Andrew, you've had, when I go back to those Canadian junior days, and of course I look over your Canadian Football League, you've been a winner. You've been a winner on the football field. And I have to ask you a real basic question, and I think it's really difficult for people that have never played the sport, or even played sports for that matter. Simple question. What's it like to be a champion? I
mean, it's indescribable, really. it's the best feeling in the world. But what a lot of people who've never, reached that, or even played, a professional or a meaningful game, the armchair quarterback, so to speak, they don't really realize the sacrifice and the time, the effort, the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into the smallest of the details that you need to be successful. And when you really put all that together, looking at the little things, like the right footwork, what you're doing off the field, how much time you're watching film, how you spend your evenings, how much sleep you get, and how you motivate your teammates, how you make your people around you better, and what every little detail that goes into it really amounts to the success. The game day is a big part of that. Obviously you have to go out there and play and win, but there's so many little sacrifices and little battles, throughout, your whole career. And it starts, once you start taking the game seriously into the next level. It doesn't just start, as soon as the kickoff goes. There's a lot that goes into it. So when you really kind of appreciate that and you take that all in, you really appreciate and recognize, the past champions, the people that are gonna win later on, and you have a different mindset of what it really takes to do it. So especially in football, there's so many guys from all different walks of life. Like you go into a hockey or basketball locker room, most of those guys are all pretty much the same kind of characters. You go into a football locker room, especially in the CFL, you have Canadians, Americans, and guys are completely different, and there's so many of them. It's a really beautiful game in a sense where if you think about what the O-line does, they have their back to the play when it's going on. So there's a trust factor, there's a brotherhood, and a bond and relationship that you really grow and build, in this game of football. And when you win, with all those factors kind of playing into it, it's absolutely beautiful, and like I said, it's indescribable to really put it all to words, as long-winded as I've gone on here. But it's the best feeling in the world, and extremely hard to do and accomplish, a lot, let alone one time, but 4 times like I've been able to do. So definitely blessed and appreciative of the opportunities. It's just it's the best feeling in the world.
Which brings us to running Back Relentless. And having seen it now, Andrew, my mouth was open in shock throughout a lot of it. I'm going to be honest with you here. Because as a guy who's been in the media that's covered your career, again, from the real beginning, probably 15, 20 times putting a microphone in front of your face and just talking football and about the actual game or the pregame or the postgame. But to see what was going on behind the scenes, and, I want people to see it. So, whatever you can share with us, because I do want people to see it. This isn't a story about, a U.S. football player, black guy from the ghetto that makes it big. There was a lot going on behind the scenes in your life that I guess people didn't know which was going on. I'll leave it there for you.
Yeah, when I was talking to Taylor Prestige about doing this story, one, I want it to be very, very raw and honest, and when you do, a lot of documentaries are self-promoting and everyone's talking about the success on the field and all these different things, but simply put, everyone has a story, everyone has a past, and some people have darker past, more trauma they faced, and that was kind of my story. When we were doing this, I'm going through it. I'm like, what gives me the audacity to feel like this is important? When I've told my story and give bits and pieces to people, they've kind of just been blown away, and as you are saying, I can't believe that you kind of went through some of these things. So I want obviously you have a platform and want to share some of these things, which was really hard to do. But the ultimate goal for me here is that, I was able to succeed on the field, from a junior standpoint, professional level. Obviously there was adversity through my whole journey, and the way I handled things at times, wasn't the most mature and the best way to handle things. But, I was able to get through it, and to a point where, I was so dark where I didn't want to wake up the next morning, after just, winning a Grey Cup and MVP, and, and everyone in the public eye would think, this guy's on top of the world. But, I was really in the darkest place that I've ever been in my life. So again, just being able to, be honest up front. I think there's a lot of other people that are in situations like this that are struggling. And matter of fact, I know this, and just, the film's been out for, a week and a half, 2 weeks now. And the amount of people have had reached out to me, and said, thank you for sharing. And, it's relatable, and this is going to inspire me, and this is helping me, that's the goal for me. And, the other side of it is this is a story about a football player, but it's not a football documentary. I think this really, or so on, the mental health, the struggle, the trauma, and really trying to uplift, people's spirits, and showing them in an inside look of how dark things can get for someone that in the public eye, has everything and is on top of the world. And, again, I think this will be able to inspire and help a lot of people, and that's the goal. And, but it was an extremely hard process for me to sit there and go through, sharing a lot of stories, a lot of, things that have happened in my life. And then now we got to go through the editing process, and what do we take out, what's too much, what's too little, and it was really hard for me to really take this in and being like, wow, like I'm sharing this with the world. But I mean, my partner Danica, close friends, really just kind of, after me and being like, this is honestly bigger than you. This is going to help a lot of people. And I really think, as proud as I am for all the things I did on the field, I'm more so proud of how I overcame, the adversity and the trauma and the things that I went through at a younger age and throughout my playing career. Because I think, that would have crumbled a lot of people, and it definitely almost crumbled me to the point where, like I said, I didn't want to wake up in the morning and I wanted my life to be over. To me, it's bigger than my career. It's bigger than, the stats and everything and the championships. This is going to save some lives, and I hope it's going to do just that.
Well, you're to be honored for putting yourself out there like that, because I've never done such a thing, but it's got to be difficult, as you said there too, because you're becoming an open book in some senses. But the fact that you're thinking of others shows what kind of person you really are. I mean, there's all kinds of access in this movie. I mean, you had cameras following you all over the place. I mean, on just a simple basis like that, was that difficult?
Yeah, it was difficult, and Taylor from Upper Canada Films is, a buddy of mine. We got to know each other, working together back in 2012 when he was at Team Shaw. They did a bunch of videos and stuff with the CFL. But, and there was times too where, I was like, I'm going to give you all access, you hit me up and, you want to come shoot. But there was times I was like, get this camera out of my face, and frustrating. But again, it was the bigger picture. I brought on a friend of mine, Andrew Brio, who is in the music industry in Toronto, and he really understood my story, from start to finish. And having him a part of this project was instrumental too, just because, from someone who's just been heard it from my mouth, and someone who's actually seen me live it, having them work together and what kind of shots to get, what kind of questions to ask me, how do we tell this story the right way, was very important. But the whole process was frustrating, but very, very therapeutic. I feel like there's a big weight and you know, I feel a lot more whole and just overall just kind of cleansed from this, you know. And I think, you know, just being open and honest, you know, even with, you know, having my mom, you know, watch this film and the way I feel about her and our relationship. And you know, we did the Winnipeg premiere, and you know, she was sitting in front of me and she's bawling, and you know, I had to get out of there. I couldn't watch. I lasted 5 minutes watching it in the Winnipeg premiere just because it was so tough. But again, just very therapeutic, and again, I felt like we did this for the right reason, and the reasons are coming to fruition. Super proud of it.
And I would guess on a long-term basis, you talk about your family. I believe you have a daughter in her teens. You have a son that's growing up right now. You come from a single family where you had just a mom, and there was struggles there. They can put on this doc and see what their father was really like. And at the end of the day, do you believe it'll make you a better father as well, too?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, just going through the conversations, right? These are conversations I've never really had by myself or with anyone else, or thoughts. You know, I've just been burying it. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. You know, you just put on a mask and you just keep, you know, plugging along life, and you know, you got to go to work, pay the bills, you got your spouse, or you're out by yourself, or whatever it is. You know, you just kind of make sure you're happy, and you got a roof over your head, and you're just going through life. And as you do that, if there are things that are eating at you, you know, you just keep burying it and burying it and burying it. And I think the more people do that, and I know the more people do that, and the more that you just, you know, take on more issues, and things just keep getting buried deeper and deeper and deeper, you're gonna hit a breaking point at some point in your life, and you don't know when that's gonna come. And like I said, that happened to me. I got to a breaking point, and it was too much for me to handle. And you know, talking to certain friend groups or certain friends, you know, I went and saw a sports psychologist, and you know, just kind of let it all out, and literally just cried, you know, for sessions, and just let it out. It helped me kind of see things clear. You know, it gave me a purpose of why, it gave me a sense of who I really was, and where, you know, this so-called chip on my shoulder was coming from. And it opened my eyes a lot. And then as we go through this, as you still keep going through life, you know, you're trying to get rid of these things and move forward. And ultimately, you know, when you're able to accept it, and forgive and move forward, you know, that's when you become a bigger person. And as a father who never had a father, you know, never really had anyone, you know, from a parental side that I could trust or count on a daily basis, or, you know, having that backbone, you know, absolutely, this has made me a better father. You know, and the way I look at my kids and the way that I want their lives to be, and how is absolutely nowhere where I came from. So absolutely going through this process and being able to have that out there, and I hope it's going to inspire some other, you know, young men and fathers to step their game up as well, because you know, it's easy for us to just be in and out, but to be really fully engaged and have the empathy and sympathy for your kids, and the responsibility that takes to be a father. A lot goes to that. A lot goes into that, and how we treat our kids really affects, you know, their lives later on in life.
A lot of respect for you there, Andrew. That's a lot that you said there, and that means a lot. And I know it will mean a lot to someone out there that's listening. So what's next now? I hear you're taking up hockey. Like, what's going on with you now?
Yeah, well, I'm competitive, right? So I just I'm not a golfer, you know, and I've always played beer league hockey in the off seasons, and you know, even for me, I never really worked out all that much, you know, in my last 6-7 years, you know. So playing lots of hockey was part of my off-season training, and I'm pretty good at it. So I had to skate with the Tillsonburg Thunder this past winter while they were in the playoffs, and so I'm going to be playing some senior A hockey out in Tillsonburg. I'm living in London right now. I work for Atlas Engineer Products. We do engineered wood products for residential and commercial buildings, doing sales and business development. So yeah, I'm just I've moved away from Winnipeg and starting a new life out here in London, and it's been interesting. I mean, I don't know anyone out here yet, and just focused on family and work, and building myself up to be successful in my next chapter. So but yeah, playing some hockey and just working, and me and my partner are expecting another baby here in September, and my daughter will be over here starting grade 11 this year. So yeah, life's gonna be busy, and just enjoying it, and stepping away from the game a little bit. I'm still helping out here and there. I help out my junior team out in Nanaimo, head of football operations, and I've been helping out the Argos, here and there. That's about it for me. I mean, just enjoying life now, and I'm excited for the next chapter. That's for sure.
I'm gonna let you go, but I got one beef with you, partner.
Okay.
There was a sighting of you recently at Tim Hortons Field wearing a Rough Riders jersey. What is going on? First of all, we had to deal with you wearing the double blue as an Argonaut. We had to deal with you there on the field. And then as a Bomber and a Lion wearing a Rough Rider jersey? What is going on here?
Yeah, I think if I'm hated by most fan bases, it's probably by the Ticats, especially after that one, let alone the 2 Grey Cups. But yeah, I mean, AJ Ouellette is guy that we competed in the backfield together. Became really good friends. And honestly, I mean, I wish he could have stayed in Toronto, but I think Saskatchewan was the perfect place for him. Just from the marketing standpoint, and where the team and head coach and that whole direction is going. But yeah, we kind of joked, in the off season. I said, "Oh, I guess I got to buy a Rider jersey now." And then, sure enough, I showed up to the game, and I was sitting with his parents, and there's an AJ Ouellette Rider jersey there. But at least it wasn't like the regular, the green. It was like the darker forest green, and it almost doesn't even look like a Rider jersey, other than the fact that it says Saskatchewan right across the chest. But yeah, I mean, football is football. Teams are teams. To me, the biggest takeaway from this game is the relationships, the brothers, the bonds that you build, and lifelong friendships that you create. And for me, I mean, it's a jersey. As tough as it was to put on from, aesthetic standpoint, I'm supporting my brother, who's much deeper than all those things. So yeah, I took a lot of flack for that, but again, AJ's my dog, and I'm always gonna support my fellas and the dudes that I respect and appreciate off the field as well.
Well, you'll know this. I know this. You were in the league long enough, to know this is true. Ticat fans, Hamilton football fans, Southern Ontario football fans, they love the Canadian Football League. They realize your greatness on the field. And I think it's really important now that we get to see your greatness and what you're building off the field right now. And for you to do this, Doc, I hope everyone goes out and sees it. Running Back Relentless. It's important, folks, that we see that a football player is a man that goes through struggles, good times, bad times, and for you to put yourself out on the line like that for the help of others, Andrew Harris. Again, as I said, Ticat fans, Canadian football fans, North American football fans, we certainly respect you, and I certainly appreciate your time here on the Sportsline Podcast. And anytime you're in town, there's a seat here for you on the red couch, and we can sit and talk some football.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for giving me the platform to share a little bit and having me on. And yeah, next time I'm in Hamilton, I'll look you up, and we'll get to hang out a bit more. So I appreciate you.
All right, we'll get your boy Dunk in there as well too, a former CHCH employee. Thanks for joining us there, my man. 33. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, that's your Sportsline Podcast for the day. And as we've just seen and heard, we love talking to people that just love sports and embroil themselves in sports that certainly are great examples to the community. If you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote, the Sportsline Podcast do want to hear from you. Please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe button. And if you have something to say, please comment. For the wonderful people that make the Sportsline Podcast possible, thank you so very much. And we'll see you tomorrow.